just because your child lies doesn't automatically mean they're a bad person and doesn't automatically mean you're a bad parent. However, it does signal to you that now is an important time to start talking about the value of honesty and to talk about how to be honest in different situations. And this is important, and you can do this at a very young age with children and continue talking about it as it comes up throughout their development, as they get older, into their adolescence, where it's very important. You can talk to them about your values, about honesty and why it's important. And this can build upon and help develop other skills that are important for them to be developing at this time, such as perspective-taking skills, self-control, and empathy, which will help them understand why honesty is important to them, but also help them in understanding how they can be honest in situations where it might be tempting or even feel easier to lie than to tell the truth. So, what are some ways that we can teach them? Well, parents can talk to their children about honesty. Talking to your children about them, taking opportunities to talk about them. You can talk to them when you catch them in a lie, but also taking the time when you're not dealing with a situation is good. So you can talk to them about honesty and why it's important. You can use stories and talk about the characters in the stories, and if they're dishonest or honest. For instance, we've done research where we took different stories as Pinocchio, The Boy Who Cried Wolf. We took many stories and we read those to children to foster conversations and moral discussions about honesty. But I'll tell you the stories that are most effective in actually affecting children's behavior. And those are the stories where a character does something and maybe they initially lie about it, but most importantly, they do come clean and tell the truth in the story at some point. And they then see the character, there's a positive reaction to them telling the truth. So for instance, one story that we told children was the George Washington story. So this is a story that is supposed to be about George Washington when he's young, and he gets an axe where he goes around and he's really pleased with his axe and he's just chopping things, and he actually chops down one of his father's cherry trees in the orchard. And his father's very upset, and he says, "Who chopped down my cherry tree?" And George Washington in the story says, "Father, I cannot tell a lie. It was me who chopped down your cherry tree." And his father's upset that his cherry tree is chopped down, but he says that he's proud of his son for being brave enough to tell the truth. So here's a story that has that sort of arc where a character does something, they come clean, they tell the truth on it, and they see that that is acknowledged as a positive thing, the telling of the truth of it. And that's a very powerful message for children. And we found that when children were read those stories, they were much more likely to then tell the truth about their own transgressions. So reading these types of stories where they actually see characters telling the truth, sometimes about something you don't really want to tell. You don't want to admit to doing something wrong or doing something bad, but seeing the characters do it and the consequences of that there are some positive consequences, can help deal with alleviate their fears about sometimes having to tell these uncomfortable truths, and also can lead to discussions about why honesty is valued. So you can read them these types of stories. You can also read stories that are not specifically about honesty, but within the stories, maybe there's a situation where the character is honest, or maybe there's a situation within the story where the character is dishonest. And you can talk to them about what do they think the character should have done? What would they have done, for instance? How could they have done it differently? So having these discussions with them helps them reflect upon it. And you can even talk about what does the person intended to do. Because sometimes a person may tell a lie, but they actually they had good intentions. So they may have told a lie because they wanted to be polite, like receiving a gift they didn't like, but they didn't want to harm the other person's feelings who gave them the gift, and they tell the person that they liked the gift, for instance. And so you can talk about what are the intentions behind the act, and then you can talk about, what would they say in that type of situation, and how would they then behave. And so you can talk about those types of different situations before they actually happen, and it allows them to reflect. And so this type of conversation, whether it's about stories, it could be about a movie that you've watched or a TV show, it could be some event that has happened in the wider world that you reflect upon with them that they have observed. This helps to foster their moral reasoning and also helps them to learn about other people's feelings and to take into account other people's perspectives. A second way that you can help foster children's honesty is that you can model honesty. So you can be honest in your actions yourself. So it's one thing to lecture and explain to them the importance of honesty, but then if you turn around and you go to the movies and you then lie about their age to get them in for cheaper, you're sort of undermining everything that you have said. So they say actions speak louder than words. If they see you being honest, returning, if you get extra change, returning that extra change, always honoring your promises, admitting mistakes when you make them. If they see you being honest, that's a very potent, powerful message that they're receiving about honesty, that you value it and that you practice it. And it also demonstrates that for them how to be honest. They see you being honest. And research has showed that children often, not only does what parents say to children influence their behavior, also how they behave influences children. And children will emulate the behavior that they see in their parents and in their peers and others around them. And since parents are one of the most significant social agents in their environment, what you do really has an impact on there. So that means that you also have to think about your actions. And if you really value honesty and you want your children to be honest, you also have to demonstrate that honesty and act honestly. A third way that we can do it is to catch them being honest. It's really easy to, especially when they're young, to catch them telling a lie. We can catch children telling lies, and we often in the moment react to that lie because we don't want them to lie. But it's harder to catch them, and we're less likely to catch them being honest because we often don't notice it. But we should try and notice the times when they are honest, especially, for instance, if they've done something and they come clean about it. So, the child confesses that they've eaten that forbidden cookie that they weren't allowed to eat till after dinner. You can say to them, you know that the rule is you're not allowed to have that cookie before dinner, and you didn't obey me. I am glad, however, you told me the truth about it. So you can acknowledge that they have told the truth. It may be that they do something like, if a child comes in and is playing with the baseball in the house, and you have a rule, you're not allowed to play with the baseball in the house, and they play with it and they break your vase, and you can say to them, I'm really unhappy that you broke the rule and you broke my vase, and you're going to have to help me clean it up and use your pocket money to help me pay for this. But I'm pleased that you told me the truth about it. So taking the opportunities when they are honest to acknowledge that and to show them that you value their honesty about whatever they're saying really is an important way of teaching them about honesty, and makes it more likely that they feel that they can be honest, and especially as they get older and there may be things that are uncomfortable for them to tell you, but they feel that they can tell you because they know that you will at least acknowledge and value that honesty.